Door knocking is one of the absolute best ways to find motivated sellers of property right now. In this episode, I'm going to talk about what is the best time to go door knocking for real estate. Have you ever heard of the 80-20 rule where, 80% of your results are happening with 20% of your efforts? In this episode, I'm going to show you how to get that 80-20 rule working for you as far as the best time to go door knocking in real estate. And I'm also going to show you some live footage of me actually door knocking in real estate. And stick around till the very end. I've actually got a free resource that you can start using today for free that's going to help accelerate that 80-20 rule as well as give you the best advantage when you're actually out there door knocking. All right, so obviously you want people to be home when you're out door knocking, but I want to tell you one, very obvious fact that you don't want to do when door knocking, and this is the worst time to go door knocking, and that is before daylight hours or after it gets dark. You never ever want to door knock on people's doors when it's dark, because what happens when it's dark? The boogeyman comes out, right? So you don't want to be the boogeyman knocking on the door. You also, when you knock on a door, you want to step at least 3 or 4 steps back and then to the left or to the right. And I don't want to make you nervous about this, but you don't want to be so close to the door to almost invade someone's bubble. And you also kind of want to turn to the side. You almost want to make yourself look a little bit smaller and almost become smaller for obvious reasons. So one, to look smaller is you don't want to be intimidating. I love to go out in nice clothes. I don't like to look rough. Ultimately, if you can door knock in flip-flops and shorts and a t-shirt, that's probably the best way, because you don't look like you're there to rob the house and you don't look like you're there with the bank. Because the main thing is you don't want to look like a banker to someone that is in Liz Pendens or pre-foreclosure or notice of default. You basically want to just be dressed like I am in a t-shirt, maybe not even have buttons. And then the flip-flop thing, I don't really recommend that, because if for obvious reasons, if there's overgrown grass or trash in the yard or broken down transmissions at the front door, you don't want to stub a toe. So I recommend tennis shoes for that. So back to the best time to go door knocking. Obviously, when people are home. I love Saturdays between 9 to 4, because that is usually the time when people are home. Another time is in the evenings after 5, but you have a very short window, especially during the winter months, because it gets dark pretty early in some of these northern states. So I don't recommend doing this after dark. And then, in the morning, it's probably a tough time for people because they're usually rushing to work, or they've got things to do, or they're getting the kids out the door. You don't want to interrupt that time. So I love the time between 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then especially on Saturday. Going back to that 80-20 rule, you're probably going to get the best results from 9 to 4 p.m. on a Saturday. Guys, if you haven't done so already, smash that subscribe button, and then we're going to get right into me actually going out live and door knocking in real estate. I'm going to take you on a walk with me. You can hear what I say. You can hear how, I'm not smashing on these doors. You can hear just how I do this. And I'll tell you, you're going to see in this video and these other videos that I do that it takes many of these. You don't just knock on one door and get a deal, but there's some tips and techniques that you can do, and consistency is what really pays off in this business.
So the best time to go door knocking in real estate is actually not right now. 1 p.m. Or 13:06. They might have been home on lunch break and they are already gone. I love door knocking usually after people get home from work, between 5 and 7 p.m. on the weekdays, and then Saturdays, most of the time people are home from about 9 to 4 p.m. I actually was trying to film the whole door knocking series, but after I went and knocked on this door at this house, which is actually a really nice house, but they are behind on their mortgage payments, and then I actually left a handwritten sticky note on the door too for Josiah to call me when he gets back, but I actually just rewrote it just because I realized I walked to the door and I wasn't even filming. Obviously, no one answered the door because there's literally no one home. The dog was barking, but the good thing about leaving these notes is you're kind of, if they're not home to answer the door, hopefully they'll call you. And it's super simple. It's just, hi Josiah, please call me Brent, and then my phone number. I just keep it really, really simple. Most of the time I do get a call back and they want to know what it's all about. And I just want to let you know I'm not with a bank. I'm not a real estate agent. Just wondering if you were looking to sell the house, and just kind of listen from there, have a conversation. But again, the best time to door knock in real estate is when people are actually home, not during the workday like I'm doing right now. So hopefully you get some understanding from this video. And then really, you know, it's about consistency. Does door knocking work in real estate? Yes, it absolutely works, but you absolutely have to stay consistent with it. Leave notes. And I don't only recommend just door knocking, but it's leave the note, door knock, and maybe even send a letter, because you want to kind of have a couple different attempts. These are people that I found that they are actually behind on their mortgage. They're not paying their mortgage payments. They're in Liz Pendens. What does Liz Pendens even mean? It's basically they are not paying their mortgage payment. They are behind on their mortgage payments, sometimes 1 month, sometimes 3 months, sometimes many months. What happened with these forbearances? You know, the banks kind of just gave them a forbearance or a moratorium where they were not foreclosing on houses because of the whole COVID-19 thing. But the forbearances are up. So a lot of these people have been in pre-foreclosure or notice of default or Liz Pendens. Really, it's all three the same, depending on what state you're in is what we call it. But these guys have been behind on their mortgage payment for quite some time. So basically, we're just looking to see if they'd be interested in selling the house. And, you know, 9 times out of the 10, they're not interested in selling the house. They're not interested in what we have to offer. But there is that one person saying, you know, yeah, how can you help? And you just want to explore other options. It's not always about buying the house for as little as possible. You know, there's always so many different options, you know, whether you can point them in the right direction to a good real estate agent. You can do something called subject to existing financing, where you buy the house, you take over the mortgage payment and rent the property back to them for a certain amount of time. There's so many options out there, and I don't just recommend going out and door knocking just random doors unless you just see like reason for motivation. Like I'm looking at this house right here. You know, it's pretty fairly decently maintained. The grass is mowed, but the bushes are kind of growing up in the on the side of the house, and then it looks like the roof hasn't been replaced in quite some time. And then there's also a screen popping out of the window. So that's a good sign of a door I would actually knock. And guess what? There's actually a car at home. So great time to go and door knock on a property. And then, you know, just look for other things like this one right here. It's kind of just grown up all around. There's actual, you know, leaves and pine needles on the roof and hasn't been cleaned. Those are properties that I would probably door knock on, as well as properties that are behind on their mortgage, properties that are in notice of default or Liz Pendens. You don't just want to randomly go out and just knock every door. Or you could canvass neighborhoods. That's a lot of talking, a lot of knocking, and it's one way to get a lot of practice in. But I like to strategically door knock doors, you know, the best time at like when people are actually home, and knock specific doors of people that are behind on their mortgage or behind on their payments, or they've got code violations or back tax issues, or just, you know, maintenance that hasn't been done in quite some time. You know, what are we looking for? You know, we're looking for paint jobs, we're peeling paint, or maybe you're in a northern state and they're not shoveling their snow, or you're in South Florida and they're not mowing their grass or trimming the trees. Like a huge indicator that people are neglecting their house is when the bushes are growing up over the house and you can't even see the house. So those are doors we'd like to knock. We'd like to leave the notes and also mail these people, kind of like a 3-pronged approach. So hopefully you got a lot of good stuff from this video. The best time to go door knocking is when people are home.
All right, so at the beginning of this video, I told you I was going to give you a resource that you could use for free to find these properties that are notice of default or pre-foreclosure, Liz Pendens, aka they're just not paying their mortgage, they're behind. And if you don't help them out quickly, the bank could take this property or this parcel of land or whatever it is that you're door knocking. Obviously, if it's a parcel of land, there's no door to knock. So you want to look up the mailing address, and that's the door you want to knock on. And that resource is thelandsharkslist.com. That's thelandsharkslist.com. It's on the screen. It's going to let you start using this service, this resource today for free. That way you're maximizing your efforts. You're using the 80-20 rule to your advantage. You're getting 80% of the results with 20% of the effort.